Thank you so much. All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This is really exciting to get to be a part of this, so I really appreciate it. Um, Please, like Sierra was saying, ask questions in the chat. Feel free to use the reactions, especially raise hand if there's anything you want to talk about. There are so many professionals with so much information in this room. I can guarantee somebody here has extra stuff to add, and please do. This is not a me talking at you presentation. It's not as much fun that way for either of us. So please, let's interact and do all those fun things. So again, thank you for being here today. Sadie Rose Pace, I use she, her pronouns, and I am an education program manager with Illuminate Colorado. And my focus is child sexual abuse prevention education. So a little bit about Illuminate Colorado, just in case you haven't heard of us by any chance. Our mission is to strengthen families, organizations, and communities in order to prevent child maltreatment. A little bit about me. I spent 10 years as a victim advocate. I live in the southwest corner of the state. 4 of those years were spent at my local child advocacy center, the Four Corners Child Advocacy Center in Cortez. So that's where I actually took this training originally. This was created by Kindling Communication for CCASA way back in 2018, so it's a few minutes old. Just sort of want to set sort of that stage a little bit as we're moving forward with it. Just a few things to keep in mind as we're moving forward. First, and probably the biggest, is that I am not an attorney. I am not law enforcement. I do not take legal advice from me. I am not giving you legal advice in this presentation. Again, I know we've got a lot of people from different backgrounds in here. So if there's clarification or any pieces that maybe I don't know, please feel free to share. That's how we all learn. That's how we all explore within this. I also want to give a quick heads up. This was created in 2018. It was created to be an in-person class, and I've never done this online. I don't know if it has been done online before. So if something feels a little hiccupy or a little garbled, I apologize. Sort of doing my best. This is that first time doing it, so I'm really thankful for all of you for being here. As I think this has been stolen from many people over time, but we're going to have some grace, kindness, and flexibility today. So it's with ourselves, that's with each other, and that's with the technology we're using. Technology has been in a persnickety mood. I don't know about you all, but it seems like every meeting I've been in this week has had a little bit of persnickety. So we're not going to take it personally if anything happens. And then just that big piece that we always want to say with any of these types of classes, please be kind to yourself. If something does end up bothering you or hitting some spot that we didn't expect, please feel free to stick around afterwards. You'll have my contact information. Please feel free to reach out at any point, as well as Sierra and Kathy. You know how to reach all the wonderful CCASA people if you need any resourcing support or anything like that. But again, that grace, kindness, and flexibility is a very important piece for today, and we're all going to have that. So, oops, sorry. My goal at the end of this class is that everybody here will be able to have a better informed and comprehensive conversations with teens about sexuality, sexting, and online safety, that we'll be able to take at least 2 steps towards improving the rights of teens for online safety. That could be within our organizations, that could be within our personal lives, that could be just how we're sort of moving forward. And then be able to describe the current laws as they relate to teen sexting. So that's really probably why a lot of us are here today, really wanting to get that sort of wrapped around. Throughout the class, I might be using some terms like children or parents or your kids or things like that. We're going to use that broad version of your kids. So this doesn't mean that you have to be a parent in order to be getting something out of this. We all have kids in our spaces that we might be keeping in mind or that might be popping into our head as we're taking this training. So if that, keep those in mind. Know that all the versions in which you are here and showing up are important and valid when we're doing this sort of class. So this is about an hour and a half. Again, little different since we're formatting with differently today. So please, again, let's have these conversations. Let's talk about it. I am so excited. This is one of my favorite classes to do, to be perfectly honest. So the fact that I get to come back and work with CCASA on this is just kind of thrilling. So thank you all for signing up for this and joining us today. So to start off a class about sexting, of course, we're going to start off with a bang by doing a statistics game. Because when you think sexting, we think statistics, right? I know everybody behind your darkened screens are smiling and nodding and thinking, yes, this is what I signed up for, statistics. I'm not going to make you do seriously hard math, but I am going to make you put some stuff into the chat here as we're talking through these. So I'm going to give you some scenarios, and I just want you to start thinking about what the percentage you think matches these blank numbers. So our first question: every blank minutes, a baby is born to a Colorado teen, or blank babies born to Colorado teens every day. So put in the chat what you think for your first one and that second one, our blank question. And these statistics are from around 2018, so bear that in mind. Let me bring up the chat so I can actually see what y'all are doing. Okay. We're getting an hour, 24 kids, 30 minutes, 5 minutes. Ooh, a lot of 5 minutes and 30 minutes. Okay. Keep thinking about it. 10 out of 30, 20 minutes. Remember, no one's getting graded. This is just a thought exercise to stretch our brains a little bit. 6. Cool. 15 born a day. Okay. Don't have any too wild numbers on here. We're getting everybody pretty set up. 2 minutes, 5 babies. Cool. All right. Good thought process, everybody. So we're going to go to question number 2. Blank percent of high school seniors have had sex. Will blank percent of 9th graders have? What are your thoughts? %, 50%, 85 and 65%, 80, 20, 80, 60. We are firmly in those 80s. Oh, we got a 40, 20. We have a lot of busy high school seniors in this group. My goodness. 20 and 5%, 75, 50%, 70, 50. Great. It's the sexually promoted society. Yeah. Oh, you're hired to be my ringer, Joanne. You just get to be do all of those comments. That's perfect. Yeah, it is. One thing to note with this is that means, that we've had sex doesn't mean that we're actively having sex at that point in time. Cool. I like these. Thank you, everyone. All right. Third question. Blank percent of teens ages 12 to 15 say that parents are their biggest influence in their decisions about sex compared to friends, blank percent. And Amy says sexually promoted with not a lot of great education. Right? We have a lot of people doing a lot of great work in this state. Koshai is incredible and all of that, but we got some gaps. We know those exist for sure. And I think everybody in this room knows that better than anyone. All right, so our percentage of teens, let's see, we've got 12 to 15%, 30, 60, 1080, 2050, 2040, 45, 60, 30, 60. Wow, we're all over the place. I like this. 10 out of 75, 1585, 840, 65, 55, 2070. Very cool. And our last question. Nearly blank in 10 youth say it would be much easier for teens to delay sexual activity and avoid teen pregnancy if they were able to have more open, honest conversations about these topics with their parents. Online sex ed isn't working. Sex ed is a tough one. All right, we've got, let's see, we've got some 8s, 6s, lots of 7s, 6s, 8s, 3. All right. Okay, now let's see how good I'm at going back to where we were in the chat for all of this. Because we're going to go do our answers. Well done, everybody. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in this. So our results, what are they? Every 131 minutes, a baby is born to a Colorado teen, or 10 babies born to Colorado teens each day. So we had a lot of 30 minutes, we had some 5 minutes, we had a lot of sort of like 15 born a day, 5 born a day type of things. What do we feel about this? How's this one? Does this feel better than what you thought? Does it feel worse? Less than I thought. We've got absolutely disgusted. Feels scary. Now remember, teens does not mean 13 necessarily. It can, but that is a range. Teen can be 19 as well. So we want to keep that in mind when we're getting too big in our big scaries, because those are so real, right? We've got saddened, less than I thought, but still too many. Better than I thought, still scary. Yeah, this is a really important one to sort of start thinking about when we're talking with our kids about all of these ones. I was a teen mom at 19, I guess 120 and 12, so close to actual. That is impressive, Sabrina, to be that close. Wow. Because I am not that good at math to have even gotten there. I'm not going to lie to you all. Robin, we've got an angry emoji. I'm sure I did it justice there. Yeah, this one brings up a lot of different feelings for everybody. It's a really normal thing. All right, our second question. 53% of high school seniors have had sex, while 26% of ninth graders have. So we had a lot of our numbers were in the 80s percentage-wise for those high school seniors having sex. So this is a much lower statistic than what we were expecting. Actually, for both, it looks like we've got a lot of like 75 50s or 80 40s. Some were lower, some thought were 20 to 5. But what are our thoughts? How do we feel about this one? It may be underreported. Very fair. Better than I thought. Makes me feel a little bit better. Yeah, I don't want anybody walking away being like, the world is a terrible place. I must lock my child in the basement and never let them out. That's not the goal of this class. So yeah, let's feel a little better. We sort of, it looks like kind of a neutral emoji. Better than I thought. If reported. Yeah, so this one, just so you guys know, this came from the Colorado Kids Survey. So, or Colorado Healthy Colorado Kids Survey. Wow, that was painful. So we know that a lot of places locally, or a lot of our local organizations and schools are no longer doing it. But the results from it are hopefully somewhat accurate. Nothing perfect, we know that. We need solutions, proper education, self-love, forgiveness classes, Healthy. Thank you for correcting that, Sierra. I'm glad that you could read my mind and put in that it is the Healthy Colorado Kids Survey as our source. I appreciate your help. I'm going to use all of the help I can get. Cool. All right. Our third question. 52% of teens ages 12 to 15 say that their parents are their biggest influence in their decisions about sex compared to friends, which is 17%. So this is ages 12 to 15. To kind of keep in mind. And let's see. I have to say, most of these numbers, let's see, I think a lot of your numbers were lower. We had a lot of like 20s for the percentage of teens who were influenced by their parents. A lot of your responses were that the parents as an influence were lower than the friends. And we really do see in so much research over and over that kids do hear what we're saying. Now, do they act on what we're saying? Maybe, maybe not. There's a reason a lot of us in our late 20s are like calling our parents going, super sorry, you might have been right about that whole scenario, right? Like that's true. But we want to really remember that particularly up until age 15, kids are still really hearing us. Now, after 15, it is very, very true that friends become much more of their priority for who their primary influence is. But remember, when we're working, especially with our younger kids, what we are saying does have an impact. So when we're discussing our values, when we're discussing what we find important and these lessons that we really are hoping they take with us, we can have those conversations early and often, and they will have an impact. They do get ingrained. Whether or not they roll their eyes at you while they're hearing it, whether or not they respond favorably while they're hearing it, that one I can't promise you. But so much research is showing that up until age 15 in particular, kids are listening to their parents. Are you surprised? Are you rolling your eyes at me? This is usually the one that makes people feel a little bit better. Okay, I can have these conversations with kids. I can do this type of thing. I can be that person, whether I'm the parent, whether I'm an askable adult, whether I'm a caregiver. Those are important things. So glad we're not rolling our eyes at me. Thank you, Joanne. All right, and our last question. Nearly 9 in 10 youth say it would be much easier for teens to delay sexual activity and avoid teen pregnancy if they were able to have more open, honest conversations about these topics with their parents. And most of you were about in the sevens and eights were sort of our primary answer for that. So a little bit more than you were all thinking for this one. Does this surprise you? Are we leaving with a little bit more of our hope for humanity coming back after the first 2 questions? We've got some yeses. Yeah, kids want to be able to have these conversations. They don't want it to be this big scary thing. A lot of us have our sort of like big histories behind us, and it's hard to like filter that out and remember we can have these honest conversations with our kids. It's just, a lot of adults didn't have those great conversations when we were younger, or we weren't sure how to have them now, or all of those things. So we want to be clear that when that kids are listening, even if they look like they're ignoring us, and that they do want to hear what we think, even though they act like they don't. So thanks for playing a little statistics game with me. Thank you for so many of you replying in the comments. That really just made me feel very good. I am so excited to keep moving forward with this. So, why do teens sext? In order for us to really have a complete understanding about it and discuss it and talk about it with teens, we have to understand why teens sext. So I want you to put in the chat again, or feel free to raise your hand. Why do you think? Why do teens sext? What's your thoughts? Again, no grades on this one. We've got seeking validation, social status, peer pressure, be part of the group, connection, and they're horny, right? There is that honest piece there too, right? Like, it's fine. Wanting to impress the person they like. Being curious. Media influence. Peer pressure, boundary testing. Ooh, that's a good one. Accessibility. Ooh, I don't think I've ever gotten that one before, Ashley, and I like it. Yeah. Do most of these feel like the same reasons adults would sext? Teens sext for, a lot of reasons. And, there's a lot of different kinds of motivations. And historically, this is not new. I've done this class with a lot of grandparents who are like, oh my gosh, nobody's ever done this before. And that's just not quite reality. There's actually historical precedence for this. Kids are more comfortable behind an electronic device. Yeah, that's very true, right? Historical sexting, we have, think about like young people going off to war, like in World War II. So I have a bunch of letters that girls would send my grandpa when he was stationed in the South Pacific that he brought back with him. And oh my, because when we're talking about sexting, we are talking about both nude portrayals like photos, and we are also talking about text. It's just over that electronic thing. So yeah, there were some interesting letters going on. I found one from my grandpa to my grandma, who he met through the war effort, but met after the war in person. And I got a little worried when I was reading it. I'm like, oh, look, a love letter. And I was like, oh my, dirty old man, even though you were 24 at the time. Like, oh my. So this is stuff that's been going on. Think about painters. So many of the famous paintings that we have, those are lovers as well as people who were, posing. That doesn't mean everybody who's posed nude has become a lover of a painter, but there is a correlation of those. More recently, people would take pictures of themselves using Polaroids and be able to sort of share those out, or different things. And you said that's some trauma. Oh, is that in relation to my grandpa? Sorry about that. It's fine. He's good. It's all good. He was a funny guy. So we're all fine. Nothing too graphic. I haven't had to talk to my therapist about it, but I have a good one, I promise. And we've got erotic images in the pyramids. There are erotic images all over Pompeii. I guess there's a special tour for non-kids, where it's all through all the brothels that have like very, very graphic mosaics going on. This is something that has been happening. In fact, when Theo, who is part of Kindling Communication, created this training, was doing the research for this class, discovered that there was a big push against the telegraph back in the day, because we shouldn't have teenagers use it, because a 16-year-old girl ran off with a married train conductor. And quite frankly, I'm a little impressed at typing out how you doing, what are you up to tonight, tap 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 tap. Polaroids can be a big thing. I mean, it was something that definitely happened, and it could get shared around. Good things come from Polaroids, negative things come from Polaroids. Really, the point of this is that this behavior is not new. This interest in sharing, like, hey, what have you got? This is what I've got. I want to know more. This has been going on since we've been able to be creatively putting stuff out there, right? Like, since we've been able to draw in the caves, we have been doing something with our bodies. And so we want to remember when we're talking to teens about this technology and we're talking about sexting, that this isn't new behavior, it's a new technology, and that what we're addressing, we actually do know more about it than we might have originally thought. We want to give ourselves a little bit of credit here. Like, so I might not understand Snapchat. I might not understand how to use a lot of the technology that's being used here, or that, Finstas or this thing or that thing. I might not know the terms, but I still understand the motivation of being 16. And I will be real honest with you all. When I was 16, if I'd had access to this photos did not exist on cell phones. We didn't have a cell phone. Like, this was not reality in my time. But it would have felt really safe. Really, really safe to send a picture versus taking my top off in front of a boy or a girl. So we want to make sure, and I think that, the more comfortable behind an electronic device comment, like, we want to make sure that when we're talking about this, we don't get so caught up in, like, oh my gosh, the media part of it is so scary. We can really talk about those feelings and those motivations behind it, because those ones we get, those ones we've experienced. We have all been teenagers. We have all been in our early 20s where, we've got a lot of hormones, we've got a lot of feelings, we've got a lot of that. We have those experiences. And so we really can talk about that stuff. Questions, feelings, anything I'm missing with this historical sexting piece? All right. So why do teens say they sext? So this does come from 2014. This study was done with college students, like freshmen, and they did that for two big reasons. One is they felt like they get more honest answers, and two is they didn't want anybody to feel like they could potentially get in trouble by admitting that they were violating the law. So once they were over 18, it felt a little safer to have these conversations. So yes, this is a little bit older of a survey, but I think this percentage points are probably pretty close to what we've heard. So 44% say it's a mutual interest between exclusive romantic partners. Sorry, we have one thing in the chat. When you say sexting, are you talking about sending nude photos, or does this include talking about the sexual topics? So both. Sexting can be either sending sexually explicit texts or sending nude photos or sexually suggestive photos. So they don't have to be completely nude in order to be sexting. And that's sort of how we would define that under those sort of jurisdictions. So good question. Thank you for having me clarify that one. I appreciate it. So yeah, 44% say a mutual interest between exclusive romantic partners. And we all remember being in high school and, how whirlwind some of those romances can be, those 3 weeks of being madly in love, or a month and a half, or 5 minutes. And so, we might not look at it as an exclusive romantic partnership because it doesn't have this length. They very much are looking at it as an exclusive romantic partnership. As well, I just went to a training with Annie Margaret from Digital Wellness at CU Boulder, and she was saying that a lot of teens are using it as a trust building exercise, which I know makes us all kind of clench a little bit. But there are she had stories of teen girls who I all think should be recruited for the FBI, by the way. But they're all saying, like, putting watermarks, getting photos off the internet that look like it could vaguely be them, putting a watermark on it, sending it to their girlfriend as insurance, and then sending it to the partner that they're interested in. And that's a trust test to see, is this person going to be trustworthy with that photo. Because if they share it out, they've got the receipts that I did not actually send that. That wasn't actually me. And if they do, hold that privacy and hold that intact, that says something as well. So it's a whole new level of like how we gauged our safety in those situations. 34% said to flirt with someone in whom I was romantically interested. Hey, how you doing? I look really good today. You should see how good I look today. 15% said compelled to respond. And this is sort of that, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to be mean. They're nice enough, maybe. Not super excited about it, but I didn't feel forced into it. And then 1% said that it was peer pressure. Now, an interesting different study with peer pressure, because this is the one that everybody's like, no, peer pressure is much, much higher. And I think for adults, we do think of peer pressure as being a high thing. In another study, 51% of teens thought that other teens were texting because of peer pressure, but they themselves weren't. So I think sometimes also the way we define peer pressure versus compelled to respond or all of those pieces also will change some of those numbers. But that feeling of like, I have to or no one will like me may not be as big of a piece. It might just be, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or I don't want to, be in a weird, conversation or something like that. But really, kids are sexting because they like it, because it's fun, because it's there. Just like we painted, we telegraphed, we sent each other letters and notes. All of those things existed before and still exist now, just in a different type of medium and a different technology. And this is why it's really important that when we are talking about consent in physical relationships, when we're talking about coercion in sexual relationships, that we are including conversations about technology, about how we are acting on Snapchat, on text, on Instagram, on all of those spaces, that the same rules for consent apply, because these are not different. It's a different medium, but it is not a different rule. It is not a different reality. So it's very easy to forget when we're behind our computer screens, when we're behind our phone screens, that we are not alone and that our actions have consequences. So we want to make sure that the conversation is being expanded upon in these. Anybody have any thoughts about this one? I wish the chat in Zoom would give you the little dots that you can get on your cell phone so you can tell if someone's chatting. So if somebody is typing away, I will come back to you. So always feel free. And this is just something across the board as we're going. Feel free to add in your comments and your thoughts as you are in the chat box, because I think it's really great. So here's some statistics. And these ones are definitely old, but I think the sort of breakdown of these statistics are still interesting. So we're going to kind of talk about these. We know this is from 2014. Since then, Snapchat has been created, and 2020 happened and the world shut down and everybody moved online. So guarantee that these numbers have gone up, but we just don't have the numbers yet to really report back on what they are. And I also want to say that all of these were done before we were really talking about a lot of non-binary stuff. So we're using the terms male and female, understanding that were this study to be done today, we would also be including non-binary into that. And there would be a lot of other moving pieces in there. So I always want to say that. So prevalence of sexting. So back in 2014, 54% of teens sent sext with or without images as minors, so probably higher. This one is interesting with text sexting, that it's a fairly close amount, 59% male to 54% female, which doesn't quite add up to 100%. Got a little over, I'm not sure. But it's a pretty even amount percentage-wise, that like it's not one gender kind of pushing that boundary or the other. A smaller percentage of teens sent photographic sex versus just text. And I think that might be something that we still kind of continue to see, that it's less. It's not saying it's not happening. I think this number is more than 28% still, but I do think that's gone down. And then when it comes to photographic sexting, approximately twice as many females as males are sending pictures. What are we thinking about this one? Pressured, possibly. As far as sending the photographic sexts, or, and again, if you want to chat, just raise your hand and that way we'll get you unmuted for this. Females more than males. Yeah, I think there is a concern of that pressure of like, we sort of expect that. This number is sort of one of those interesting ones because people either really expect it to be females be higher, and there is that concern of that peer pressure or just that concern, versus a lot of people were like, I expected it to be higher with boys and penis pictures, or the quote unquote dick pic. Yeah. Yeah, the perception that everyone is doing it. Oh, don't you remember being in high school and having that feeling that everybody else is off having adventures while you're at home? Yeah, it's so real. And now we have a little bit more of that ability of like, well, I could be a part of this. I could be doing this. Is it in response to pressuring requests? I don't know as far as the photographic sexting. Some of it could be. But I think a lot of it might be that compelled to respond versus like a pressuring. So like, it might not be a, you have to send me this, but would you please type of thing. A perceived competition to be the best option, possibly. I mean, when we're teens, we're not always thinking in our best brain yet because we're still developing that. And so there could be some concern of those pieces. There's a need for validation. Yeah, we're seeing that. Oh gosh, some of the data I got was every time your phone goes off, like with a notification, your cortisol level rises. Like, ping. And so when we're looking at the dopamine hits that we get from like when we post a picture, when people are responding to things, we, instead of getting that cortisol, we're getting this dopamine hit of happy. And the more that we get those things, the more hits of happy we get. That also has the downward side of, if we're only getting dopamine, we're not getting all the other things that we need in order to gain that validation. We always need more and more and more. There's not enough type of thing. There's so much photo apps, and then we want to send it out. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't allowed to play with the camera when I was a kid. That was not an option. And even when it was the disposable cameras, you had to take the picture, you had to hope it comes out, you have to wait for it to go, you have to get your parent to take you to the store, you have to hope you have the money to buy it, maybe hope your mom doesn't look at it on the way home. That might be a story I have. And then, how are you distributing it? Now it's super easy. There's that question of, if you love me. Yeah. Remember hearing a long time ago that boys use love to get sex and girls use sex to get love. I think some of these dynamics still exist. It doesn't matter. I have also seen girls use that same dynamic with boys in coercion for photos. And I know I am speaking to the choir when I say this, that we know we see a lot of it typically being male perpetrators, but we also know that men report less. It doesn't matter what it is when it comes to any nature of domestic violence, of sexual assault, of sexual abuse. Men report less. So we don't always know if we have that correct data or anything. Women are a little more willing to be outspoken about that, as hard as it is to be outspoken regardless of your gender. That specific stat, females and males, makes me think of gender stereotypes. Girls and young women, quote unquote, shouldn't express their sexuality, and then keeping consent in mind, of course. Yeah, it's really easy when we're talking about this stuff to accidentally fall into those like, oh my gosh, what was she thinking? What was going on? It's so easy to do that. I mean, I've been doing this work for a long time. And every once in a while I hear, my grandmother coming out of my mouth where I'm like, oh, no, come back. Because we have those thoughts of like, what was she doing? And we want to remember that that is not always the case, and that we want to be careful about how we're saying these things, especially when we're talking to kids who might hear it in a way that is different than it is intended. Again, preaching to the choir. I am well aware of that, but always like to say that when we're having these conversations. So yeah, again, these numbers are going to be higher. I can almost guarantee it, without being a tech person, just because I don't see how they wouldn't be. It would be shocking if they went down. So let's talk about risks. What are the risks of sexting? I bet we have a list in our heads right now, but let's talk about some of them. So a big fear a lot of people have: online predators. Online predators are very real. They are also, kids also are getting the like stranger danger. We want to talk about stranger danger online too, of like, hey, if you don't know people, don't send things to them. We want to remember that kids make friends fast, and kids make friends fast online. So when we say, do you know them? Are they your friend? The answer is yes, and they are being very truthful, but it might not be a friend in the way that an adult would define it. So we want to be really clear about like, how are we talking about this, especially with our younger kids as they're starting to walk into using social media and using phones and using this technology. Online predators are very real, and they will tend to target kids. This is why it can be really helpful to be talking to your kids about like, who are you getting emails from and what's happening with all of this. If you are somebody who likes to or wants to use like anything that tracks a kid's phone, just remember this is also a consent issue, and we are not going to track anything and not tell anybody, because we are helping our kids get consent. I don't want to be tracked. I'd rather not have a phone. That's fine. You are making a decision. You are able to consent to it. And just be very clear. What am I looking for and why am I looking for it? This is a great way to have some good open conversations. Online predators tend to be able to gain that trust or gain some of that coercion control piece very quickly, just because kids might not understand what they're being asked to do. When a YouTube promoter sends them an email, they don't know how to differentiate between what a real YouTube promoter would do. I don't even know if there are real YouTube promoters, and what somebody who's claiming to be one is. And so they might not understand what's going on. So this is why we want to sort of walk with them through that online presence. And the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has a really great website for younger kids in particular, under their NetSmarts link. And it's like a game, or I think it's sort of an interactive TV show almost type of thing to it. It's actually pretty fun. It's a little addicting, I'm going to warn you now. Permanence. Permanence is the thing that scares most of the adults. Permanence is a very, very real thing. We want to be very cautious when we are talking to kids about the permanency of things, and that you can never take it off, and it's this big scary, and your employer will be able to see this in 25 years and there's no escape from it. Because we don't always know when a kid is coming to us asking questions after something already happened. And we're going to be really, really straightforward right now. We don't want our kids thinking this is a death sentence. If I shared something and my friend or my partner or somebody else shared something of mine to the internet and it got spread all over the place, I shouldn't be afraid of telling my parents, and I shouldn't think that my world is ending. Because we have kids who do. They think the world is ending. We are seeing, starting to see some concerning trends of like what happened previously, and kids thinking like, oh my gosh, now my nude is up onto the internet. It will never come down. I'm in trouble. I should just kill myself. We do not want to encourage self-harm. We want to be very careful about how we're having this permanence conversation, and make sure that when we're talking about this, we are, instead of focusing on the, oh my gosh, don't do it, you'll be in so much trouble, that instead we focus on how do we build a positive online presence? How do we do this together? Also, please note that, again, NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, have just launched a great website called Take It Down to help people get nudes taken back down again. I've heard from a few people who've had the opportunity to be on webinars with it. I've checked out the website. It sounds really, really promising. Nothing is as promise, but it can be really helpful. So if you have a kiddo in your life coming to you, or if you're in that position work-wise where somebody might be concerned about that, this is something to keep in mind. And thank you, Sierra, for putting in the link for that into the chat. I think it is totally worth it. They've been working on this for years and years. I'm so excited that they finally got it launched. And it sounds really cool. I don't understand the tech behind it, but it sounds really cool. Another thing that comes up a lot is privacy. These are both super private and super public at the exact same time, right? Like, we've got everything on here. So I could be having a conversation that nobody knows about right here, and yet I could be having a conversation that everybody's seen in real time, and we don't know necessarily what's happening. And so privacy is a real worry. And what we forget a lot as adults is that these kids grew up without privacy. They grew up in this world. We did not. But I was 19 when I got my first cell phone. That was a flip phone. I liked that cell phone, my good old flip phone, but it wasn't a fancy type of thing. I wasn't able to send pictures or anything like that. That wasn't even an option. And all of a sudden, they've been immersed in this culture forever. So their concept of sort of privacy and all of that is a little different than ours. And we're catching up to them with it. So we want to kind of keep that in mind when we are talking about those things. The real fact, like when we talk about sharing, there's always this worry of like, well, what if somebody shares your images that you are doing? We want to remember when we're talking about that, instead of it becoming that victim blaming, shaming piece that's really tempting to do, how could you send that photo? What were you thinking? We want to remember that if somebody has their credit card information stolen and shared all over the internet, if we type into the wrong thing, we got scammed, we're not like, oh my gosh, how could you have gotten scammed? What is wrong with you? We want to have that same attitude when kids have something personal of theirs shared over the internet, that it's not okay, and it is the perpetrator's fault for doing this thing. You trusted somebody that didn't deserve that trust, and that stinks. And maybe we learned lessons, or all of that stuff, which stinks to have to do. I don't know about you all, but I'm sick of learning lessons. I keep hoping that the lesson part of life ends soon, but I don't think it will. I think that keeps going. And so we want to really make sure that we are talking about this and expressing it in ways of, if you choose to share somebody's personal information out, you are the problem. Again, we're not blaming victims for trusting somebody with something and having it be shared. Not that I think you all are. I think we've got a good group, but I always like to put that out there. Revenge porn. It's illegal. If somebody is sharing pictures of you that you had shared with them in a relationship after the relationship ends in order to punish you, it is illegal. And it has been prosecuted among adults quite a bit in the state of Colorado. I am pretty sure within teens. I just haven't been part of any of those cases, so I can't speak to them specifically. But this is a real thing. And if somebody is sharing your information or your kids' information out like this, or doing this in order to shame and blame them after a relationship ends, it's a crime. Go to law enforcement. Big fan. And then child porn, that's a big fear. This is where, again, Take It Down comes into play, or any of those things. What's being shared? And this is something also we want to think about as the adults in the room. What are we sharing out of our kids? What are we posting on social media? What is going on? We want to be very cautious of those things and think about what are ways that make sense for our family, that hit our values, our what we feel is appropriate. And I can't tell you what is the right thing, because there is no one right thing, but we want to really be having those open conversations. And then, of course, the law, which is why I think a lot of us are here. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But I just want to go over the risks thing. Is there anything that surprised you or that I am missing in here? Again, I've got a lot of very intelligent, well-versed people in this room. So is there a risk of sexting that I missed in this scenario? Okay. All righty. So we'll go into the law. Oh boy, who doesn't think this is fun? So sexting and the law, and we are talking about underage sexting. So in these scenarios that I'm going to give you, everybody is underage. So there's no like 30-year-old and a 15-year-old in these scenarios. All of our scenarios we're going to say are like both 15-year-olds or both 16-year-old. Like we're not going to worry about those age dynamic shifts. All right. So scenario number 1, orange and green. Oops, sorry, we've got a thing in the chat. Do you think it would be beneficial to bring awareness how predators use social media avenues to kidnap and inject them into sex trafficking? I think, just like we're talking about, and I am not a trafficking expert, Sierra, I would imagine that you've got some good leads on where to send people for good sex trafficking information as well, because you're probably CCASA would be one of the places I would call with this kind of question. We also have the lab for human trafficking, and a lot of great spaces in Colorado that have just left my head as soon as I said that. We want to think about that as that online predator piece. This is why, just like with any type of other scenario where we are concerned, we want to make sure that we are surrounding kids with lots of safe adults, with lots of people that they can go to, where we are really wrapping around kids and not leaving them vulnerable to any type of person, whether that's an in-person, an online presence, or whatever could be in between. We want to make sure that we are really wrapping around and we are being those askable adults and we are doing those pieces. Social media can definitely be used for those types of pieces, and I just don't have the knowledge and training to truly address that question. So it's a good question though, Joanne, and it's something that's coming up a lot lately. Again, the Laboratory for Human Trafficking is fantastic, and there are some other. Karen Napolitano is fantastic. I've called her many a times and been like, I don't know, is it a stupid question? And she's so lovely. Thank you so much, Sierra, for putting that in there, because great resource, great place of doing that. I knew you'd have that right at the tip of your fingertips. All right, so let's go back into our sexting law. Perfect. So orange and green, we're two teens, we're the same age, they're dating, we really like each other. One evening, green texts orange and says, hey, can you send me a sexy photo? And orange gets excited and says, why, yes I can, and sends it to green. So it's our first little scenario. Our second scenario is pink and orange. So pink is one of Orange's classmates. Pink doesn't ask Orange. Pink just takes a picture and texts it to Orange. And Orange did not want that photo. Orange is sad. Orange is a little disturbed. Orange is creeped out. Orange doesn't like it and is really upset, shocked, and distressed at having seen it. That's our scenario number 2. Scenario number 3. So we got green again. green in his and their picture of orange. Sorry, they don't have genders. They're colors. So green in the picture of orange. So green tells all their friends, oh my gosh, I got such an awesome picture from orange last night, and then sends it to everybody. So blue, red, and purple here. And blue, sorry, I'm pointing at my screen like you're watching it through my lens. Sorry about that. You're in front of me. Apologies. I'm used to doing this one again in person. So we've got blue, red, and purple. So blue thinks this is really mean. I don't like that you sent me this photo, and deletes it immediately. But red and purple, they're like, oh, this is a cool photo. Thank you for sending it. You're such a good friend, Green. Yeah. So they're into it. So that's scenario number 3. And finally, scenario number 4. Purple thinks this photo is so great of orange. They just can't get over it. And they just think world should see how great orange looks. And they post it publicly on a website for anybody to see. So the default law back prior to 2018 in Colorado, this is all Colorado law, the default law was felony, 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 felony. It's no crime if you delete something that you didn't ask for and it's removed right away. And felony. That was just the default law back in the day. It didn't matter if it was consensual. It didn't matter what was going on. If an underage person were to be sending or receiving any type of sexual message and keeping them, they could all be charged with felonies. So, what do we think about all of that? Does any of these scenarios seem a little more egregious, seem a little more concerning? Do they all feel about the same level of concerning? Are we okay with felony being sort of put for everybody? TikTok would not exist. I think a lot of sites might not exist, although it doesn't really matter. Laws only matter if you get charged, right? If you get caught doing it. And a lot of people do things that are against the law until they get busted. Are we okay with everything being a felony? I don't know. Felony for scenario 1 seems very extreme. We want to remember when we're talking felony, we're talking now we can't have, housing aid, or we're not eligible for a lot of different supports as adults. I mean, we make felony as a teenager has a really long history that kind of goes along with that. It really is a long effect sort of scenario. And when we think about that, we're thinking about people like Orange, who just really trusted the person, because in this scenario, for scenario 1, both of them are getting that felony. And the same way with scenario 2. So Orange, when they trust their partner and they sent them a photo, they're getting charged with a felony. Or if they are minding their own business and they got sent something and they didn't delete it because they were just so upset they didn't know what to do, they could potentially be charged with a felony as well. Little bit intense with these sort of scenarios. So Colorado decided, you know what, this might not be the best plan. We might need to adjust this. And so as of January 1, 2018, the laws did change in the state of Colorado. I will do my best to explain them. And again, if anybody in here has better knowledge than me, feel free to elaborate. So scenario 1, when Orange is sharing with Green and all that fun stuff, that is a civil infraction. That could be a fine of $50. That could be a class. A lot of jurisdictions do not have anything on the books to prosecute civil infractions. I know Jefferson County does. They've got a whole big scenario. It can actually get a little expensive with this civil infraction of the fine and the cost for classes and different things. Other jurisdictions, like I'm down in the 22nd Judicial, we don't really charge a civil infraction that sort of in place for this at this time. That does not mean our next district attorney may not do something different with that. So scenario 2, this is the sending an unwanted picture. So Pink could be facing a misdemeanor. So it's serious, it's a thing, but it's not necessarily a felony that's going to stay with them for their whole lives or anything like that. We also want to make sure that like orange may or may not be, depends on sort of how that all went down, but most places are not going to be charging orange with a misdemeanor, especially if they came out and went like, hi, I got a thing I don't like, please make it go away. Scenario 3, also a misdemeanor. If this part gets tricky, and this is why I'm not an attorney, because this is where it gets a little thing. So for orange to have sent these out to friends via text message, that's a misdemeanor. But if it were on certain web-based apps, it could potentially go up into a felony. So we want to make sure that we're very cautious with this one, but it could be considered a misdemeanor of I'm sending pictures. Now, it is still no crime for Blue to have done that, to have deleted it. So our teens, if they receive a photo and they report it within 72 hours or delete it, might be, no, it is 72 hours, then they're not going to be charged with anything. So we can tell our kids, like, you delete things right away if you don't want it, or go to law enforcement. But if you hold on to it as I don't know, you could potentially be charged with a petty offense. That depends on your jurisdiction. So just sort of keep that in mind. And misdemeanor, it could really depend on the egregiousness of it. And that's up to district attorney's discretion when it comes to charging. And then our last scenario, once it's shared online, for sure, it's a felony. Now we are violating much bigger laws than state. And we are sending out child sexual abuse materials. What could be defined as that under federal laws. How does this change feel? And if I missed anything, please tell me. So one thing
Sadie,
to keep
there's
in
some
mind
things
is
in the
that this is far from perfect. There's still a lot of scenarios. There's a lot of conversations about whether or not we need to change stuff or anything like that. Oh, we have in the chat, I think I might have froze for a minute on you guys, I'm sorry, that this is much more appropriate, this is more just, that this seems more reasonable. Yeah, this does feel a little more like, okay, there's nuance. And that one thing, you know, sending a picture to your partner is very different than sharing somebody else's photo on Facebook. Like, this very different things, and we need to be adjusting to that. When we are talking to our kids about this, we want them to keep in mind a few things. Yes, it might be a civil infraction, or it might be a misdemeanor and not too big of a scary thing, but Colorado is not an island. I live in the Four Corners. A lot of the kids that I work with might live part-time in another state or have friends and family in another state, because I'm right in the Four Corners. I've got Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico visible from a high point. Like, I can see all of them. They're very close. And so we want to make sure that we're telling kids the laws in Colorado do not extend to other states. Every state has their own versions of this. So while you might be doing something that is a mild misdemeanor in Colorado, it could be a felony in Utah. And so we want to be really, really clear that this is not a universal thing, that there are still potential for repercussions with these laws. I also like to make it very clear, especially with teenagers who might be dating someone that's 2 or 3 years older, you can be in a sexual relationship at 16 and 18, and that is totally legal. If your 16-year-old is sending pictures to this 18-year-old, all of a sudden that 18-year-old is in possession of child sexual abuse materials, and they will be charged with a felony, or could potentially be charged with a felony. So we want to make it very clear that these laws don't match consent laws for in-person. The consent laws for in-person sexual interactions, because what is it, like age 16, it can be within 10 years, age, and then 15, it's within 5 years. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've done this one and my brain blanked. That does not exist for our media. So all of those consent laws are only for in-person sexual interactions. Consent laws do not affect the underage juvenile sexting laws. So anything that contains sexual materials of a minor that is in possession by an 18-year-old or above, that is child sexual abuse material. Questions, feelings on that one? I will tell you that freaks out a lot of 16-year-olds. I get a lot of big wide eyes. And I dated an 18-year-old. I grew up in a small town. I dated an 18-year-old when I was 16 too. And so you don't quite realize what's going on with that. So make sure that we're having that conversation too, that there are two things that they need to be aware of when they're doing that. Because I don't know about you guys, but man, I knew a lot of 16-year-old girls who knew consent laws real well. Okay. All right, we're almost done. So that's that fun law stuff. You'll have all this information out there. And if there are any questions, if you have specific scenarios or concerns, please go to your local law enforcement, local attorney's office. With your organizations, make sure that you've got whatever policies you need around these pieces. Talk with your attorneys about that. This is that general overview. And just to kind of give you some good footing as you're moving forward and figuring out how to have these conversations. But this entire little scenario spiel, you can show the kids in your life. Like you can forward it to this because they might get bored with the rest of our presentation, and just show them the law piece. Most kids don't know this. Most parents don't know this. We got to do a better job of getting this information out there. That's my little spiel. All right. So what are teens saying about all of this? And then we're saying a couple of different things. So these are quotes from, sorry, I'm reading right off of here, from when Colorado Youth Matter conducted focus groups with young people statewide in order to survey the practices and feelings of teens in our communities. So one of the questions was, what do you want adults to know about teens and sexting? And so these are some of the responses, and I have no reason to believe that they would be any different 5 years later. I think it's definitely a generational thing. I don't think it really matters what your opinion on sex is. My parents are very open about talking about sex. I was very fortunate in that regard. But when it comes to sexting or anything like that, my parents they just don't get it. I feel like when people have their photos leaked, people automatically blame the person who took the photo, but not the person who leaked it. I think it's stupid, because if a girl sends a picture, people will talk about her like, oh, you're a slut, you're a whore. But if it's a guy, it makes him more of a man. Talk about those. If we were taught how to do it safely, then it would be much less of an issue. I wish adults would just be straight with you about it, not try and scare you with it. I think that's a really powerful thing to think about. The kids want this information. They're asking us for it, and they're asking for, how do we do this safely? How can I be in a relationship that is a lot on my phone in a way that is safe? How do I know what to do if something bad happens? Who can I go to? These are the conversations we can have as safe, askable adults by building this community of people who are going to support our kids. Are they gonna mess up? 100%, because they're humans. We all do. I know a lot of adults who have sent materials that were not right and that they really regretted. This is not, this is something that we do accidentally sometimes. We will mess up, but how are we responding to our kids? How are we open to these conversations? So what can we do? We can talk with our kids. What do we view about, we're going to talk to our kids about sexuality. We're going to talk to our kids about like, hey, this is what's going on. And if you're feeling like, I just don't know how to do it, there's a lot of different things out there. There's amaze.org. They've got a great website with all sorts of cute little videos up. We have a class at Illuminate called What to Expect When Talking the Talk, which is all about like, this isn't a one-time conversation. Let's keep building this up. Let's be that askable adult. We want to be talking about what are our family values? What is our cultural values? What are the things that are important to us? These are conversations to have. These are those things that, like we talked about in the beginning, kids are getting in their brains. We want to talk about consent. We need to talk about consent. Again, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Everybody in this group has a lot of information about that, but consent, and especially what consent means in an online world, is a really important ongoing conversation. And I guarantee you, your kids know more than you think they do about it. And we want to talk about media usage. How do we do it? I'm a big believer in saying, hey, I just got this app. Can you help me set up my privacy settings for it? What do you think I should put on it? We are not going to be asking kids like, what are you doing? Ask them to help us. They know more about it anyway. They're going to be able to set it up better than we can. And it's a great opportunity to have this conversation in a non-pointed way. Hey, I need to change my privacy settings. Can you help me? Why would you do this? What would make me want to do this one versus this one? Because sometimes there's the different types of settings. Have conversations about it. It's a great non-probing way to start it. What are our values about it? Do we say that, hey, all phones are in the kitchen getting charged, including adults, because we're going to model what we preach, right? All night long? Or, when is this appropriate? Do we have blackout times? Do we have those things? How do we talk about that? And these can be ongoing conversations. If we're watching movies or TV shows, that can be a great way to start this conversation of like, hey, what do you think about that? Like, what would you do in this scenario? If we're seeing something on Riverdale or whatever else is going on right now. I haven't hung out with a teenager in a few weeks. Like, I don't know what the new popular stuff is, but if you're watching something with them, ask them what they would do, what they think of those scenarios. Talk about it. This isn't a blaming. This isn't a pushing. This is just sort of a great way to sort of be like, and I choose Riverdale because it's so off the top. Like, if you have the genes of a serial killer and you're like running off in a rocket ship with a cult, like that's not going to come up very often with the kiddos in your world. So it's a really good, like, clearly I don't think that's what's happening with you sort of thing. Really think about your monitoring philosophy. What are those practices? What feels right for us? Every family is going to have a different one. So decide what's right. And within an organization, how do we make sure that people are following codes of conduct? Do we have a code of conduct that covers this type of thing? What if somebody is using our computers and sends images or different things like that, or an image accidentally gets sent to us that was designed for somebody else? How do we handle it? What do we do? We want to be talking about those things before they happen, so that way we have a vague concept when it does, because it will. So you're the trusted adult. Congratulations. And you are the ones that are going to be having these conversations with the people in your life, with those kids in your life. And again, you can send this sort of thing out. You can look at other websites and try and get some ideas of how to start this. but being that trusted adult, being open to it, being willing to have those tough conversations and say, I don't know, I never dealt with this. Let's figure it out together. Know that you might hear things you might not like, but it's important that kids feel safe coming to us. Otherwise, we will have a lot more issues. So actually, we won't worry about that piece. Come on. Oh, well, I'm going to exit this. Oops, sorry about that. Sorry, my computer got a little bit smarter. So last few minutes, is there anything that you can take away from this that you can use in your professional world, your personal world, that made this worth the hour and a half that you've been here today, that anybody wants to share? What are your takeaways? I am also going to put in the chat box my contact information. I'm at space@illuminatecolorado.org. Somehow that slide I managed to delete, so I apologize about that. But my contact information will be out there with Sierra. They'll put that all out. All right, our takeaways. These conversations need to be early in life for our youth. Yeah, they're online way sooner than we think they are. And so we want to be having that conversation early and often and adjusting. Again, amaze.org and NECMEC and CMEC.org have some really great ways to start some of these conversations, videos that kids can watch, parents can watch, and we can have discussions about those. So again, we're not pointed at kids. We've got the legal aspects of teen sexting. Yeah, I got to provide this for a group at the high school, my local high school, a couple of months ago. And the teens were mad, super mad that nobody had told them this. And the parents were mad that no one had told them this. So this is something that's really important to start thinking about and talking about. And it's scary, it feels hard, but it's not as scary once we start talking about it. It's not as hard once we do it. All right, in my role, I'll be doing workshops around safety and privacy, and I'm excited to sneak some of these things into them when working with youth. Oh, that sounds fun. I want to be there. I like when we can sneakily put that stuff in of like, we're helping, but we don't need to be lecturing. Great information. As a prevention educator, I will research ways to implement what I've learned into our curriculum. Great. If there's anything I can help you with, please feel free to reach out to me, or always reach out to Sierra as well, because CCASA is doing so much of this great work. But we're always happy to coordinate doing this type of thing. So always happy to talk about this. The Colorado laws around child pornography will be tremendously valuable to mention when I'm educating high school students about sexting and consent. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, say so. Hey, neighbors. Such a great program. That's really cool. Yeah, happy. Again, always happy to reach out, always happy to connect, always happy to be part of any of those things. Maria, totally let me know. I would love to be a part of any of this. Looking at the time, I'm going to say thank you so much to all of you. I really just cannot thank you enough for being here. If you are watching this later, thanks for watching it later. I know it's really easy to have that cue in the background of like, I have a lot of videos to watch. So thank you for doing that. I just cannot thank you enough. This has been great conversation. I've learned a lot today too. And so much gratitude to CCASA for letting me come here from Illuminate Colorado and be a part of this. This is a really wonderful thing to get to do. Oh, and we have, thank you, statistics are so helpful. You're very welcome. Oh, I'm so glad I could give this information. So I will turn it back over to Sierra.
Thank you so much, Sadie. Thank you so much, everyone, for being in the space today and participating. It's always a great presentation when you all are engaging. So thank you so much for sharing today. As mentioned earlier, we will be sending out a follow-up email with all of the things. So be tuned into your inboxes for that. We're going to go ahead and sign off for the day. Have a good rest of your day, good rest of your week. And don't forget to tune into some of our other CCASA webinars that are coming up and things that Illuminate is doing as well. So thank you all so much. Have a good rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Sadie. That was great.
Oh, thank you. And I'm happy to chat if anybody has questions or anything.
Kathy, you can stop recording.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, so I do see some people still in